fine. We just have things off right now, but you're fine.
Oh, okay, cool.
Thank
Perfect.
you.
Thank you.
From Governor's Comedy Club in Levittown, this is Sports Bash, presented by TicketBash.com. TicketBash.com, where memories are made affordable and where you'll never pay a service fee. Sports Bash is also presented by the Ryan Anthony Head Start Fund, a group of like-minded individuals trying to raise awareness to our future generations of all possibilities of success other than just college. For more information, visit www.lookwhomadeit.org. Sports Bash is brought to you by the Embassy Diner, located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage. Every customer is considered family at the Embassy Diner. Mention Sports Bash, get a free dessert with your meal. By Living Legends Memorabilia and Collectibles in Rockville Center, Long Island's go-to store for sports, entertainment, and political memorabilia since 1996. They're also available for charity auctions. Mention Sports Bash when you come in and get a free autographed photo. Give Warren a call at 516-826-4000. Stay tuned later in the show. Find out about the Living Legends item of the week. And by the Marty Lyons Foundation, the official charity of Sports Bash Media. For more information, go to martylyonsfoundation.org. Hi again, everyone. Happy Thursday. I'm Peter Schwartz. Later in the show, number to call is 516-465-3990. Make sure you're subscribing to Govs Comedy Club Podcast and Sports Bash Media on YouTube and following along on Facebook and Instagram. Later on the show, I'll be joined by Rangers and Knicks broadcaster Kenny Albert. Lots to talk about with him. Also, I'll be joined by Mets broadcaster Keith Redd. Of course, the big news last night about Pete Alonso re-signing with the Mets. We'll also play Stump the Wiz later in the show. Take a look at this week in sports history, and we'll check out the Sports Bash Media poll question of the day. But first up on the show, want to welcome in a very good friend of mine, and we had a chance to first meet when he was a rookie with the Jets in 2004. Went on to a great start to his NFL career with the Jets, and now part of the Jets family as an alum and doing some broadcasting work as well. He's like all over the place as a media mogul. Want to welcome into the show former Jets cornerback Eric Coleman. Eric, it's Peter. How are you?
Hey, what's up, Peter? I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I'm a little bit busier now than the last time we talked because, as you saw, like now I'm this like big shot sports executive now.
Yeah, congratulations on that. I saw that you got the general manager job. Super happy for you, proud of you, and I know you're going to do a great job.
Well, I appreciate that. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, I'll be the general manager of the new arena football team at Nassau Coliseum. And you and I chatted last night via text. I expect the Coleman family to come to a game starting in June when you guys are back on Long Island.
Oh, we definitely do that. I have a 10-year-old son who plays flag football. My girls actually, they love the game of football. So we'll definitely be in attendance, and we'll come and show some love.
Absolutely, looking forward to it. But let's talk about the team that is near and dear to our hearts. Back from your days playing with them, and now following them as a member of the media, and that's the New York Jets. And it's been so busy for them over the last couple of weeks. There was even some breaking news today that they're hiring Rick Spielman to be a full-time member of their front office. Darren Moogie is the new general manager, and of course, Aaron Glenn is the new head coach of the Jets. Just wanted to get your thoughts on Aaron Glenn coming on board and taking over the reins.
Man, I was super excited to see that Aaron Glenn was going to take over as the coach of the Jets. Obviously he is a Jet. He's a former first-round pick for the Jets and has done a phenomenal job in the coaching space since he retired from the game. The main reason I was excited is because he's well respected amongst the players. He's a guy who's tough. He's hardworking. In the era that he played, it was a physical game, and that physicality leads to a lot of success. It led to success in Detroit. And, he and Dan Campbell were able to turn that organization around, change the culture of what was going on in Detroit. So I'm excited for him to bring that energy to the New York Jets because Lord knows we need a culture change. We need a culture change. We need to start getting some wins.
He's the first former Jets player to become the Jets head coach, and if he brings even the energy he had with the Lions was one thing, but if he brings the same energy to the Jets as head coach as he did as a player, because I love to watch him play, and he was a great kick returner, a great cover corner, he was all over the place. If he brings that same passion and energy he had as a Jets player to the head coaching position, I think he's going to be really successful. Do you agree with that?
I do agree. I do agree. I think that he's a guy who, he understands the ins and outs of the games. He understands how, important this conference is, and this division is. And, he's going to be a guy that knows how to pick players. He understands the strengths and weaknesses of our team, and he's going to put everyone in the best position to thrive. So super proud of him, super, happy and excited as a fan to watch the Jets play and continue to grow this team.
There was this idea that, given what the Jets have been through the last couple of years, that the best candidate to be a Jets head coach would be somebody who was previously an NFL head coach, but Aaron Glenn is a rookie head coach. Excuse me. Your thoughts on that, and how does he compensate for being a first-time head coach? What's the challenges ahead for him?
I don't think it's going to be anything crazy for him. He's a guy who, you always talk about these coordinators. Certain coordinators, they have a great amount of success on the coordinator position. They get hired as head coaches, and they don't understand the position. It takes away from their superpower. But I think Aaron Glenn's superpower is relating to the players. I think he's going to be a good, face of the organization. I think he'll handle New York well, and he'll get those players prepared. He has signed on Steve Wilkes as a defensive coordinator.
I love that hire. I love that hire.
I love it too. So he doesn't have to be hands-on with the defense. He can trust that Steve Wilkes is going to do a great job, and he can just manage the team as a head coach is supposed to do. I think a lot of times with these coaches, they get too involved in one side of the offense or the defense or special teams, and it takes away from the front of the team. I think Aaron's going to learn from a lot of what Dan Campbell did. I think learn from the coaches that he's coached under, Sean Payton and those other great coaches, and implement that with the Jets, and I think it's going to be great.
Talking to former Jets cornerback Eric Coleman here on Sports Bash as we talk about the Jets through the offseason here with their new head coach, Aaron Glenn. Let's go back to this past season. As you know, and I'm transparent all the time. Everybody knows how big of a Jets fan I am, but the Jets have had worse seasons record-wise. I mean, I people have lived through 1-15 and 3-13. There have been some disastrous Jets seasons, but this past season I felt was the worst season in Jets history, only because of the expectations surrounding Aaron Rodgers' return, and you look at the defense that they were supposed to have, and just all the talent that was on this team. At the least, people expected a playoff appearance this year. So when you factor in all of that and all the other nonsense that went on, it's, in my opinion, this was the worst season overall in Jets history. When you look at this past season and everything that happened, how do you sum up what happened to the Jets this past season?
Well, it was a big disappointment. I think that everyone had high hopes and aspirations coming into the season. It was just, it's so frustrating, Peter. I can't put a finger on what exactly was wrong. I know that, the firing of Coach Saleh, I know that took away from the defense. I know it took away from the team because Coach Saleh, I thought, had great energy. And, I thought if they were going to make a move, it would be at the offensive coordinator position and maybe, grow from there and try to figure things out from there. But, you saw when Coach Saleh left the building, the defense fell off because Coach Ulbrich had to take over as the head coach, and that took away from him coordinating that defense. So, there are a lot of elements involved in this. Aaron Rodgers, a guy who's coming off an Achilles injury, and people forget this is a major surgery that he came off of. And most guys, when they tear an ACL, when they have a big injury, that next year, you're not full speed. You don't completely trust in that repair. Mentally, you're not believing in it. Yes, the doctors tell you you're clear, but you can't pop off it. And obviously, he's up there in age, so it's going to take a little longer. And with that being said, I thought Aaron, stat-wise, had a solid year. 28 touchdowns. He took care of the ball. I would like to see this team evolve. I'd like to see them start dominating games on defense. I would like to see them sustaining drives and putting up points and just being competitive in the AFC East. And I think that they make the right moves this year, and hopefully they'll grow and put together the right team.
I thought Aaron Rodgers finished off the season strong, and I think when you look back on it, it's almost crazy to say, but given everything that happened, if you look at his numbers, his overall body of work this past season, he put up numbers that made it one of the best statistical seasons for a quarterback in Jets history. And I know that there's two schools of thought when you have a rookie head coach like Aaron Glenn coming in. He talked about having sustained success. And if you're going to go in that direction, you probably don't bring Aaron Rodgers back because you want to probably draft a quarterback, groom somebody, maybe you sign a short-term free agent and draft a quarterback for the future. But also, if you're Aaron Glenn and this team still has this long run of not making the playoffs, if you want to make an instant impact in your rookie season as a head coach, maybe you do bring back Aaron Rodgers. Where do you stand on that? What would be best for Aaron Glenn and the future of the Jets? Do you bring Aaron Rodgers back or do you let him go?
I think that I'm a big believer in bringing him back.
Yeah, me too.
I thought he did a very solid job. I believe his teammates respect him and like him. The media is one thing, but the guys inside the locker room, in between those lines, I think they definitely believe in Aaron. And so I would like to see him come back. I think Aaron Glenn is a strong enough personality where he's going to command respect from every man in that locker room. There's not going to be any Aaron Rodgers dominating this. And I don't think Aaron has that personality. I think he's painted in the wrong light. But I think that they can make this work. I actually know that they can make this work. So I think bringing Aaron back, maybe drafting a young quarterback, developing that quarterback under Aaron Rodgers for a year or two, that is the right move. Because when you look out at the free agency, you look at who's available, where the Jets are picking. I don't know if there's a starting quarterback out there that's going to be better than Aaron Rodgers. So I think you keep him under the center.
Yeah, I don't know what the alternative would be. Obviously, you could draft a quarterback, and you can still hang your hat on maybe Jordan Travis, who we did not see at all this past season. We didn't even see him in a preseason game because he's recovering from that injury he had at Florida State. But, if Jordan Travis hadn't gotten hurt his senior year or his last year at Florida State, he might have been a first-round draft pick, Eric. So they still have that in their stable. Obviously, I think they would look at drafting another quarterback, but I think it would be the perfect situation. You bring Aaron back for one more year, whether it's Jordan Travis or somebody else that they draft, he'd be the perfect guy to learn under.
I agree. And he's a great leader. I think that this team has a ton of talent. It's just about putting things together. And, because when you look on paper, the roster has always been great. It's star power everywhere. They improved the offensive line, running back, receiver, defense, whatever position that you call out, the Jets improved on that last year. Mm-hmm. And so now it's all about putting it together and applying that the gamesmanship, the preparation, the discipline, not beating yourself with penalties and unforced errors. I think that discipline is going to be what separates the Jets from last year from a successful team this coming year.
I want to talk to you about the defense, and we'll start with a position you're very accustomed to. Of course, that's cornerback. And, Sauce Gardner was tremendous in his rookie season, AFC, defensive rookie of the year in the NFL. But he struggled at times last year. Look, I think that everything went wrong for the Jets last year, and I just thought it was so silly for a lot of people to call him Soft Gardner this past year. I thought that was very insulting. Here's a team that had all these things go wrong, and he was just part of it. But is there any reason to believe that Sauce Gardner is not the player that the Jets drafted?
No, I don't think there's any reason for that. It's tough. Like when you're a fan and you're watching this Jets defense from last year, you can put a lot of blame on one player, especially at the cornerback position. But the reality is they play a lot of cover three, so it's not man-to-man coverage. You have to stay on top of things. You can't challenge routes. And yes, in some situations when you're blitzing, he can challenge guys. And I think that Sauce is as good as any corner in the NFL at playing press coverage, playing man-to-man. He's big, he's long, he's fast, he's competitive, and he wants to learn. So I think that, when you have a head coach like Aaron Glenn, who was a corner, who was great at that position, I think that's nothing but positivity for Sauce and his development. He's going to continue to grow and be the player that he was or better his rookie year.
Couple minutes left with former Jets cornerback Eric Coleman here on Sports Bash, and I have to go back to your playing career and ask you about your time with the Jets. We've spoken about this on other platforms before, but just for the sake of our conversation here on the show today, what did you like most about your time with the Jets? How much did you enjoy being a part of Gang Green?
Man, I loved being a part of Gang Green, and it was because of the family atmosphere. When I got drafted in 2004, there were a lot of veterans in the locker room. There was, you can name it from Chad Pennington, Curtis Martin, Wayne Corbett, Sam Coward, John Abraham. There were so many guys in that locker room. And the thing about it was, as a rookie, they really embraced me. I remember Sean Ellis and Eric Barton telling me as a rookie, let's go grab something to eat after practice. And sitting around having a meal with those guys and them telling me stories and, spending that quality time together, it really created a bond with us as a team. And it was just like, it helped me grow up. It helped me turn into a pro. I got to learn from some guys. And, I remember asking Curtis Martin, what does it take to last in the NFL? And, he told me, it's taking care of your body. You got to treat your body like a business, like a Ferrari. If you're going to the gas station, you're going to put 87 fuel in it, or you're going to put 93. You got to get sleep. You got to get rid of the distractions. And it was really nice to have guys who have been through it, who have been successful at it for a long period of time, teach you the ropes. And that's what I love most about that Jets team.
You mentioned Sean Ellis, and I once had a conversation with Joe Beningo, who I'm sure you know, my compadre at WFAN. We were talking about this, and we talking about the Ring of Honor, and it's always great to see new people get into a respectful team's Ring of Honor. I think Sean Ellis should be in the Jets Ring of Honor. I think he had a terrific year with a career with the Jets, and you played with him. You mentioned him. You made a point to mention him a few moments ago. What do you think of Sean Ellis one day in the Jets Ring of Honor?
I would love to see Sean in the Ring of Honor. I mean, the Big Cat was a phenomenal player. He was a great leader. He was consistent. He was always available, and he was just someone you could count on as a defender who was going to hold down that side. He's going to get after the pass, get after the quarterback. He's going to stop the run. He set the tone as a defender, and just a phenomenal example of what it's like to be a Jet. He's a New York Jet. He's one of the best to ever do it, and I think he deserves to be in the Ring of Honor.
I wholeheartedly agree. I can't let you go, Eric, without your thoughts on the big game on Sunday. I don't think too many people in New York are enthralled with the choice of who to root for, the Chiefs or the Eagles in the Super Bowl, but you're the expert here. Break it down. Who do you like on Sunday in the Super Bowl?
Man, this is tough because you look on paper at the Philadelphia Eagles and that offensive line. And shout out to Mekhi Becton for what he's done in transforming his career with the Philadelphia Eagles. That offensive line, they do a great job of just mauling defenders. And they have the perfect running back to run behind them, and they just create a lot of big plays. The problem is you have Andy Reid, you have Patrick Mahomes on the other side, and the Chiefs defense that only gave up, I think, eight runs over 20 yards the entire season. So they're not giving up a lot of the big plays. And I think if the Kansas City Chiefs can contain Saquon and keep him from having those 60, 70, 80-yard runs and make them earn everything, I don't think that the Eagles can keep up with Patrick Mahomes in that offense. So I like the Chiefs.
I think you and I could talk football for hours, but we only had about 15, 20 minutes, so I appreciate the time and look forward to seeing you when you get back to Long Island.
It's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me. And tell Kenny I say what's up.
I certainly will. Former Jets cornerback Eric Coleman was my guest here, the first guest on this show, and he mentioned Kenny, and that means coming up next on Sports Bash, I will be joined by Rangers and Knicks broadcaster, among other hats that he wears all over the place, whether it's football or baseball or basketball or hockey. He does just about everything. Kenny Albert will join me when we come back right after this. Hi, I'm Peter Schwartz.
And I'm Vinny Tickets.
We want to take a moment to talk about our fantastic sponsor, the Embassy Diner.
Embassy Diner has been a beloved staple in the restaurant industry for over 50 years. And the great thing about it is when you walk through the door, you're not a customer, you are family. Every visit promises to be filled with warmth, love, and respect.
And here's an extra treat. If you mention Sports Bash during your visit, you enjoy a free dessert on the Embassy Diner.
Come on down to the Embassy Diner, where great food and great company are always on the menu.
Visit the Embassy Diner, located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage.
Living Legends Memorabilia and Collectibles is the best place to find autographed entertainment and sports memorabilia. We guarantee the authenticity of each and every item in our shop to provide you with quality collectibles anytime you browse our inventory. Our memorabilia includes autographed photos, sports equipment, jerseys, hats, and other paraphernalia from current athletes and legendary sports stars. If you prefer the entertainment industry, we have signed posters, albums, and photographs from classic movie stars and today's celebrities. To give back to our community, we participate in fundraising auctions for local charities. Call us today to request a specific autograph, find a special gift for someone else, or schedule an event. Living Legends Memorabilia and Collectibles.
Welcome back to Sports Bash, presented by TicketBash.com. I'm Peter Schwartz, and this segment of Sports Bash is presented by the Ryan Anthony Head Start Fund, a group of like-minded individuals trying to raise awareness to our future generations of all possibilities of success other than just college. For more information, visit www.lookwhomadeit.org. We say thank you again to our first guest of the show. We were joined by former Jets cornerback Eric Coleman. Now we shift gears. Welcome in guest number 2, a longtime friend of mine and just one of the great play-by-play broadcasters that you will find anywhere in sports, and he is a busy man all the time. He does the Knicks, he does the Rangers, he does the NFL on Fox, he does hockey, he does everything. We welcome to the show Kenny Albert. Kenny, it's Peter. How are you?
I'm great, Peter. How are you? Great to be with you, and congratulations on the new gig.
Yeah, thank you very much. Years ago, starting out in broadcasting, never dreamed of being a general manager, and now that's happened. I'm excited and nervous at the same time.
Well, I'm sure you'll do a great job. My former longtime partner, Daryl Moose Johnston with the NFL on Fox, he got involved in the management side a while ago. With some of the other leagues. He's been involved in a couple of them that are out there. So I know he's really enjoyed it, along with his broadcasting work. So he's been able to manage 2 hats at one time. So I'm sure you'll follow in his footsteps and do a great job.
I appreciate that, and I certainly hope that's the case. Let's get right into it. We'll start with the Rangers. Obviously, that had come from behind win last night, and there was that point in the season where they just were struggling so badly. And then they got things back in gear. They make the trade, trading away Hedl, and they get JT Miller back in the lineup, and things seem to be trending back in the right direction for the Rangers. How do you sum up the last month or so for the Blue Shirts, and how far do you think now that they can go? Did they right the ship enough to get this thing going back in the right direction?
Well, you're right about the up and down season to this point. They got off to a really good start at 12-4-1. Then they went through that 4-15 stretch. But since then, aside from a little 3-game blip, they've played really well over the last month and a week, I guess, the last 5 weeks. And you look at the last 2 games, come from behind victories in the third period, back-to-back over Vegas and Boston. Trailed 2-1 heading into the third in both games and came away with a couple of wins. So trending in the right direction. They made the big trade you referenced last Friday night, reacquiring one of their former first-round picks, JT Miller from Vancouver. And he's certainly had a profound effect so far. It's only been 3 games. He scored 2 goals in the first game against Boston on the road on Saturday, and then had a couple of assists against Vegas on Sunday. And last night, although he didn't pick up an assist on the play, he was a major factor on their first goal, and then they wind up scoring 2 in the third period. But the team has really seemed to sort of shift their style a little bit, and we've seen some of the players sort of playing with the intensity, with the style that JT Miller plays, as far as getting in there on the forecheck, going to the dirty areas in front of the net, and it's paid off with some big goals over the last 2 games. Right now they're in that mix. There are 9 teams within 8 or 9 points now, as far as the 2 wild card teams, and then the 7 teams in the hunt. So it was a big 2 points last night. If the Bruins had won that game in regulation, the Rangers would have been 8 points behind the second wild card spot, but instead you narrow that gap down to 4. So that was a big win. They have 2 games coming up prior to the break for the Four Nations tournament, home against Pittsburgh tomorrow, and then in Columbus on Saturday. But these 2 wins over Vegas and Boston were very important, and they did it, like I said, in similar fashion coming from behind in the third period.
When the Rangers were trending in the wrong direction, a lot of Ranger fans and even members of the media were pointing to the fact, Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad were not pulling their weight in that lineup. And just your thoughts on those two players, how important they are to the Rangers and how important it will be, especially after the break, to pick it up and try and help this team make the playoffs.
Right. Two very important players, Kreider for the last 13 years now and Zibanejad since coming over about 7 years ago from Ottawa. And Kreider, he's talked about his back issues this year. He has not been close to 100% health-wise. Scored the big goal last night. And when you watch the replay, it's amazing how quickly he was able to get up ice. Speed is certainly one of his, one of the key elements to his game. And there's a video. He was well, back in the defensive zone, and it was like he was shot out of a cannon and winds up on the 2-on-1 with Zibanejad, scores the shorthanded goal. Zibanejad, he's talked about it. It hasn't been a great season for him, but started to come around. He has 5 points in the last 2 games, 6 points in the last 3 games. He's playing a different position now. He's on the right wing, on the line with JT Miller and Panarin, and so far in the short term, it's paid off.
Kenny Albert's my guest here on Sports Bash, and you mentioned the Four Nations tournament that's coming up and in place of the All-Star game this year. An exciting tournament. Looking forward to it. Should be a lot of great hockey. How excited are you looking forward to this and being a part of it?
Yeah, really excited, Peter. I'll be involved in 2 of the games. There are 7 games total, 4 in Montreal, 3 in Boston. ESPN has 4, TNT has 3. So Brendan Burke, who does a terrific job on Islanders broadcasts, he'll call a game next Wednesday with Darren Pang from Montreal involving Canada, and then Canada and Sweden. And then our crew, myself along with Brian Boucher, Eddie Olczyk, and Jackie Redmond, we have 2 games in Boston on Monday the 17th, Canada against Finland in the afternoon and the United States against Sweden at night. So should be really exciting. The NHL has not seen a best-on-best tournament now since the World Cup of Hockey back in 2016. The league did not participate in the last 2 Olympics. So for the players, it's about 100 players from the NHL, from the United States, Canada, Sweden, and Finland. I know they're really looking forward to it. The 3 local teams are really well represented, and it should be a lot of fun.
How close do you think the league is? And I guess a lot will depend on the success of this tournament, but you mentioned the World Cup of Hockey, and I used to love watching that, and then back in the day, the Canada Cup was such a great presentation of the game of hockey. How close do you think we are, if this works out, the Four Nations face-off, that we can get back to the World Cup of Hockey and expand it to including more countries again?
Well, it sounds like hopefully that's part of the plan. They have the Olympics next year, but there have been talks, according to things I've read, about implementing the World Cup of Hockey once again, and including more countries, like you said, for various reasons. Russia and the Czech Republic are not part of this one. I know Marty Walsh, the head of the Players Association, was asked about that. And with Russia, it's obviously due to political reasons and what's taken place over the last few seasons. And we'll see what the deal is as far as the Olympics next year. With the Czech Republic, it's just a matter of they wanted an even number of teams, it sounds like. So without the Russians involved, it was hard to add any other countries.
Right.
So they went with the 4. But it sounds like there certainly have been discussions amongst the NHL and the Players Association about having not just one, but multiple World Cups of hockey in the near future following the Olympics next year.
You're the voice of the Rangers, but you also obviously cover the NHL for TNT. So I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the other 2 locals in addition to the Rangers. Let me start with the Devils, and they've been very, very exciting to watch this year. They had the down year last year after making the playoffs the year before. Give me your thoughts on the Devils this season and what kind of noise they can make down the road.
Well, in my opinion, Peter, it's always great for the area when all 3 teams are doing well. I love when all 3 are in the playoffs. We haven't seen it very often in recent years. It happened a couple of seasons ago, but it just raises the level, the excitement level. You see hockey on the back page. People are talking about it on the radio and all over social media. So it's such an exciting time come April when the playoffs get underway, and if all 3 teams are there, it's even better, in my opinion. As far as the Devils, goaltending was an issue last year. They really upgraded with Jacob Markstrom. He's out with an injury now, but has been a big part of the Devils' success. And then by bringing in some veteran defensemen, like they did with Brett Pesce and Brendan Dillon and Kovacevic, and they get Dougie Hamilton back from injury. So that was a big issue last year with the Devils, the defense and the goaltending. They have superstar players up front, led by Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt and Nico Hischier right on down the line. So, they're looking real solid right now. The Islanders, with their long winning streak recently, the 7 straight wins, getting back into the playoff picture, and they're doing it with a lot of injuries on defense, as you know.
A mash unit.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I've always been a big fan of Tony DeAngelo. Had some great chats with him when he was a player with the Rangers. Always enjoyed bumping into him. He's such a big sports fan.
Yeah.
He could host a sports talk show if he wanted to. He did a
Maybe
podcast.
I'll have to have him in studio with me.
Yeah, no, he's so knowledgeable. He's a big Philadelphia sports fan. Grew up in that area, loves his Eagles and Phillies and all the Philly teams. He played for the Flyers a couple of years ago, but he is really so knowledgeable about all of the sports, and I always got a kick out of the time that I spent talking sports with him, and he's done a terrific job playing over 20 minutes a game with the Islanders. They brought in a couple of other defensemen as well. So, like I said, it would be great to get all 3 teams in. It would just raise the level of excitement and attention in the area if that's the case.
Islanders GM Lou Lamoriello's got a big decision to make here because, if you asked him a few weeks ago, if you gave him truth serum a couple of weeks ago when the Islanders were struggling, you'd probably say, well, the Islanders are going to be sellers at the deadline because Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri are unrestricted free agents, and maybe you get rid of them. But now the Islanders have won 8 of their last 9. As you mentioned, they're right back in the hunt for a playoff spot. When you look at the Islanders right now, if you're Lou, what do you do? Do you push to try and make the playoffs, or do you start to think down the road and breaking up this group a little bit, getting younger and playing for the future a little bit?
Right, it's a great question, and only Lou would know the answer to that. But I would think you probably try and make that push because you never know what's going to happen next year and in seasons beyond. If you get into the playoffs, I think when you look around the Eastern Conference, you have the Florida Panthers, who are the defending Stanley Cup champs, and they've been to the final now 2 years in a row. And can they get there a third time? They've played a lot of hockey over the last 2 years. There are some other terrific teams in the East, but it's somewhat wide open, among those teams that are fighting to get in and the teams that are sort of at the bottom of the playoff mix right now. So if you get hot, we've seen it with some lower seeds. If you get hot down the stretch and then carry that over into the playoffs, and once postseason hockey begins, it all comes down, as you know, to goaltending and health, injuries, playoff matchups, who you wind up paired up against in the first round. So, there are no dynasty teams out there right now. Saw Tampa Bay win a couple of cups in a row. Florida, now they've gotten to the final the last 2 years. But once you get in, anything can happen. So if it's me, I'm probably trying to make that push for the playoffs. But a lot of questions, not only with the Islanders and the players you mentioned with Brock Nelson and Palmieri, but, we've seen some trades already, some big ones with Nico, whose contract is up at the end of the year, going to Carolina for Natchez. The big deal involving JT Miller and Filipino the other day. So, it'll be interesting with the teams not playing for about 10 days during the Four Nations. A lot of the management, the GMs, will all be together in Montreal and Boston because so many of them are working for the various countries in the Four Nations. So on the Canada staff, you have Doug Armstrong and Jim Nill and Don Sweeney, 3 general managers in the league, Kyle Dubas, a 4th. They'll all be working together in Canada. And then on the U.S. side, you have a number of general managers, including Chris Drury of the Rangers, who are all going to be working together, and coaches from a lot of different teams. So, it'll be kind of like the draft where everyone's together and in the same room. You're going to have, 7 or 8 NHL coaches and 7 or 8 general managers in the building together during that week and a half of the Four Nations leading up to the trade deadline.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's like a little hockey convention. I'm sure all the GMs are going to get together and talk. A couple minutes left with Kenny Albert. Want to switch gears to the Knicks? Because not only do you do the Rangers on the radio and on TNT for the NHL, but you also do some Knick games on MSG. And they have been, for the most part, so much fun to watch this year. The addition of Karl Anthony Towns has given them a little different dimension, and they've been one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. They've stubbed their toe a couple of times recently, but for the most part, they have really, the fan base has been energized by this team, and you've been around them for a little bit. Your thoughts on the Knicks so far this year?
Right. No, they've had a terrific season for the most part. I was in Toronto with them 2 nights ago. Had the opportunity to call the game with Walt Clyde Frazier, which is always a lot of fun. And, you can't really argue with 34-17, right?
Yeah.
Third best team in the East behind Cleveland and Boston. It's been such a terrific run the last 4 years under, the management group led by Leon Rose and Tom Thibodeau, one of the top coaches in the league, and his staff. And, it's amazing the way they've really reworked this roster. I was talking to somebody last night. When you look at some of the moves they've made recently, Deuce McBride's their second, as far as longevity, he's been around longer than anybody except Mitchell Robinson. So they really remade the team over the last 2, 3, 4 years. But they have 2 legitimate all-star starters in Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. And, I'm not sure anybody could have expected Jalen Brunson to be this good when he came over from Dallas. He was obviously a terrific college player. Wasn't drafted until the second round by the Mavericks, and started some games in Dallas, but came off the bench as well. But he's been unbelievable in his 2.5 seasons with the Knicks. The player that he's turned into. We all watched Towns from afar when he was with the Timberwolves, and he's had an outstanding season. And then you add the other starters into the mix with OG Anunoby, who's now out for a little while. Mikal is coming over from the Nets. Josh Hart's had a great season, just the heart and soul of the team. So, they've gotten to the second round the last 2 years. Hopefully from a Knicks standpoint, they can push it even further this year. But, their starting 5, they play a lot of minutes. Tom usually goes 8 deep, sometimes 9 deep, and you see a couple of the guys off the bench play 15 to 20 minutes. But 3 of the 5 Knicks starters are in the top 10 in minutes in the league. So it's a great group. A lot of fun to call some of their games. I'll have 2 of them next week, Tuesday in Indiana and then Wednesday in Atlanta. So looking forward to those as well.
By the way, I'd be remiss not to ask you about the Super Bowl. By the way, former Jet Eric Coleman was my first guest on the show. He wanted me to say hello to you. He called you his buddy.
I caught that at the end. We actually had the opportunity to work one Empire Challenge together at Hofstra, the charity game that Boomer Esiason did an unbelievable job with for about 20 years. And we worked with Marty Lyons and Mike Quick, 2 of the all-time greats. But Eric joined us for one of the games about 4 or 5 years ago. Had a lot of fun. He's a terrific guy. And he actually made it into my book, Peter. I have a list at the end in the appendix of all of the color analysts that I've ever worked with. So Eric's on that list. My book came out about a year ago, and glad to be able to include him on that list.
And he's a great guy. Was a terrific Jet. Your thoughts on the Super Bowl? Who do you like, Eagles or the Chiefs Sunday?
Yeah, it should be a great game. I've been asked a couple of times the last few days. I usually stay away from predictions because don't like making predictions on games I have to work. And the bottom line is I'm usually wrong. It's amazing. When I call a NFL game, along with my broadcast partners, we go in on Fridays and Saturdays, and we get to meet with players and coaches. And sometimes they share a little bit of the strategy and their thoughts on how the game might go. And, we think we know everything about these teams. And when we talk about what we think the result might be, who's going to win the game, 50% of the time we're wrong. So, you think you know a lot and you really don't know much, as far as what's going to happen on the field, on the ice, on the court. I think it'll be a great game, close game. 2 unbelievable organizations. We've seen what the Chiefs have been able to do during this dynasty run that they've had. I've always been a huge fan of Andy Reid, called a lot of his with the Eagles, and Eagles have had a great season as well, with Saquon Barkley doing his thing, and it should be a terrific game on Sunday. Looking forward to watching it.
I think it will be too. Before I let you go, I got a little surprise for you. I don't know if you know this, but a short time ago, maybe a couple of months ago, I was named to the selection committee for the National Jewish Sports Hall of Fame. And with me here in studio is the chairperson of the National Jewish Sports Hall of Fame, Jason Bartow. And Jason has a little something to tell you.
Hello, Kenny. How are you?
Hi, Jason. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I have the distinct privilege and the honor of informing you that in no small means, because of your local and national work, being one of the elite broadcasters who works all four of the big sports, that the committee has voted and has selected you to be inducted into the National Jewish Sports Hall of Fame as a part of the class of 2025. Mazel tov and congratulations.
Wow, just got the chills, Jason. Really appreciate it. That's a tremendous honor, totally unexpected. I'm kind of speechless now. I don't really know what to say except thank you and a huge honor, and can't wait to share the news with my family and friends. Really appreciate it.
Well, it's funny you mentioned your family. You know, your dad, Marv, is a member of the Sports Hall of Fame. And here's some trivia now. I know they do trivia here on this show, but you and your dad will now join your good friend, Jeff Bacantz, and his father, Daniel, as the second father-son duo in the National Jewish Sports Hall of Fame.
Well, that's unbelievable news. Jeff's a good friend. He's a legend in the world of fencing, and we first met a couple of years ago when we were both inducted into the New Jersey Jewish Sports Hall of Fame at the JCC in Tenafly. And Jeff's a huge Ranger fan. He's a season ticket holder, and I always look forward to the games when we're both there. And he's always waiting for me in the same spot after the first period, and we have a great chat. So an honor to be part of that group, especially with Jeff and his dad.
Kenny, congratulations. I'm glad I played a little small part in this, and excited to have this announcement as part of my show today. And I can't thank you enough for being a guest and for being part of this very special announcement.
Well, thanks, Peter. Thanks, Jason. Really appreciate it. Peter, continued success. Love listening to you in the mornings with Boomer and Gio. I catch the show whenever I'm home. And good luck with the football team on Long Island. Hopefully I can come out and catch a game.
Would love to have you out there. Thanks, Kenny, and congratulations again, Mazel tov.
Thanks, Peter. Appreciate it.
Awesome. The great Kenny Albert, and a little viral moment here on the show informing Kenny Albert that he is going to be in the National Jewish Sports Hall of Fame. Jason Bartow, thank you so much for being a part of this today. And
thank you, Peter.
Thank you for having me be a part of the selection committee. I guess it's easy to say it's a mitzvah to be a part of this. So thank you very much. It's my honor, and I'm looking forward to being there when Kenny is inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and it's great to have your sage advice and wisdom to work with the Hall of Fame. And now we'll look forward to cheering you on your team that you'll get to build from scratch here on Long Island.
Yeah,
and
it's exciting.
Very exciting.
We're going to need all the mazel we can get. Absolutely. We're really just getting started here on the show. We probably one of the biggest lineups we've ever had on Sports Bash. When we come back, we're going to change gears again, switch gears, and talk baseball. Big Mets news last night. Radio voice of the Mets, Keith Rad's going to join me when we come back on Sports Bash right after this.
In 1982, the Marty Lyons Foundation began with a single heartfelt mission: to bring moments of joy and hope to critically ill children by granting wishes that make their dreams come true. Since that day, we have touched the lives of over 8,500 families, raising over $43 million to grant wishes that offer a beacon of light in their darkest times. These precious wishes cost an average of $6,700 each, and your support is crucial to our mission. Every donation, big or small, makes a difference. And with 76 cents of every dollar going directly to supporting our families, you can rest assured your support truly changes lives. The Marty Lyons Foundation operates 11 chapters in 14 states now, working tirelessly to reach as many children as we can. This dedication goes hand in hand with our commitment to transparency and accountability, earning us top ratings on Charity Navigator, Great Nonprofits, and Candid, which underscores our dedication to those we serve. The Marty Lyons Foundation grants wishes to children ages 3 to 17, And what really makes this foundation so special is our willingness to grant not only a first wish, but also consider a second wish to a child who continues to battle a life-threatening illness. We stand by these children, offering them hope and strength through the power of dreams, giving our children the courage to wish for more.
What's your purpose in life? Is your purpose in life to live in the big house and drive the nice car? No. Your purpose in this life is to make it a little bit better for those that follow and realize that we live for today to see a better tomorrow.
Visit MartyWyonsFoundation.org to learn more and get involved.
Welcome back to Sports Bash, presented by TicketBash.com and the Ryan Anthony Head Start Fund. I'm Peter Schwartz. What a moment we just had a few minutes ago with Kenny Albert on the show and informing him, along with Jason Bartow, the chairperson of the National Jewish Sports Hall of Fame, informing Kenny Albert that'll be part of the class of 2025. That was pretty cool. And pretty cool for Met fans, the news that happened late last night. I mean, it has been such a saga since the end of the season with Pete Alonso returned to the Mets, and as it turns out, he is back, agreeing to a 2-year deal last night. And you can't get much better person to talk about the Mets these days than one of their radio voices on 880 and the Mets radio network. He's Keith Rad. Keith, it's Peter. How are you?
I am good, guys. Much better now that Pete Alonso is once again a New York Met.
It is great news for the Mets, the whole organization, the fan base. And Keith, I don't know how you felt about it since the season ended, but I was always of the impression and the feeling that it was going to ultimately end up that Pete was going to be back with the Mets. I know there were some moments where you started to hear the rumors about the Angels and then the Blue Jays, and then Steve Cohen at Amazing Day had those very harsh things to say about the negotiations. But my feeling all along that there was really no other place that he was going to wind up other than Flushing. Your thoughts on the process and the relief that he is now back with the Mets?
Yeah, it's definitely a relief. I mean, he immediately makes the Mets better. But the one thing that we learned about this is, I think, the honest truth about some of our favorite players and the business of baseball. I mean, how many Mets fans wanted Pete signed for life into that big, long contract? And, Pete turned down a big deal. We heard 7 years, $158 million. That was reported 2 years ago. And then he thought, let me bet on myself and make some more money here. And then it turns out, as the first base market this offseason shrinks, Pete wanted to make a lot of money, the money that he thought was the best value for him. And looking around to the market, it just didn't appear for him. So I think he was frustrated by this. The fans were frustrated by this. You heard Steve Cohen frustrated by all of this. You can't fault Pete for wanting to get the most for his value. But at the same time, he always knew in his heart of hearts that he was going to be a New York Met. And so there's no dollar sign that I think that would have taken him anywhere else except the Mets. The problem is then the Mets are starting to bet against the Mets, and it becomes messy, and that's what I think it was. And hopefully we can get past that pretty quickly and just insert him into that lineup and go for it here.
I think the perception of him among the fan base changed in a split second, because I think if you looked at the body of work this season, I think there were probably a lot of Met fans and maybe a lot of people in the Mets organization that felt that his time with the Mets was coming to an end. And then that magical moment in Milwaukee where he hits the series winning home run, I think that changed everything. I think it's simplistic to say, but I think looking back on it now, I think the perception of the fans of him changed with that one swing of the bat. And I'm not sure he is a Met right now had it not been for that swing of the bat.
You're absolutely right. And going back to that game in Milwaukee, if you remember, defensively before the at-bat, he drops a pop-up in foul territory, an easily catchable ball, and he hung his head after, and every Met fan is going, man, this has just not been Pete's year.
Yeah.
And then he comes up there late in the ninth inning, and in the back of our minds in that radio booth, there's a chance Pete hits into a double play to end the game and end the season, because you'd seen him come up time and time again, and unfortunately, that had been happening. And you're right, he hits this home run, and all of a sudden, Pete's back. So I think you're totally right with the way that home run shifted the vision. But I think even more so, the negotiations, day by day by day, exhausting. for this deal to get done. Mets fans, the more time you give them to see both sides of it and every side of it, perception does change about how long do you sign a guy? How much love do you have for a guy? And what is he really valuable to you?
There's still some time to go before spring training starts, and I think the news of Pete Alonso puts a nice cherry on top of the sundae in terms of the Mets offseason. When you think about the moves they've made, obviously the mega deal that brought Juan Soto from the Bronx to Flushing, and some of the other moves the Mets have made. And Jesse Winker is back, and I know that they've made Jose Iglesias a contract offer. So when you factor in everything together in this Mets offseason, coming off of them getting to the National League Championship Series, how do you sum up the Mets offseason so far as they head towards spring training?
Yeah, it's hard to say that they had the best offseason out there, because every day I turn around and the Dodgers sign somebody else, to the point where I was going, how many people can you have on a 40-man roster, LA? But you get Juan Soto, you now have Pete back. Your offense is great. Jesse Winker is back. Starting rotation is still going to be, I think, the biggest question mark. It doesn't mean it is the question mark. How far will this team go? But you have a lot of guys with, high floors, not that high of a ceiling. You have Kodai Senga, who's an ace. I still think is going to have a really big year, but you take a chance on Frankie Montas. Try to turn Clay Holmes into a starter. I mean, these aren't, guys that you give the ball and 30 starts later, you're going to have phenomenal years. You're still taking a bit of a risk, but I think the bullpen is stronger. AJ Minter came in 2 years on that deal. He was an Atlanta Brave guy for years and years and years, so he knows how to pitch some big innings. Bring Ryan Stanek back. They're very deep again going into spring training, and I say deep without mentioning names because we're going to have those guys that David Stearns brought into spring training this year that'll be the next Dednell Nunez and Reed Garrett. We have no idea who they are yet, but I think they're deep enough that the offense looks good, the bullpen is strong, and the starting rotation, again, high floor. They'll keep you in the game. Now, who's going to be the guy that breaks out like Minaya or Severino did? And of course, they brought back Minaya this year.
Mets broadcaster Keith Radd is my guest here on Sports Bash. I think it's hard to envision another offseason or acquisition made by the Mets in their history that can equate to the Juan Soto acquisition. And the only one I think comes close was the Mike Piazza trade, and that was in the middle of the season. I can't remember another move the Mets have made that has invigorated the fan base, has excited the fan base. Now, I know it's a long contract and a lot of money, 15 years for Juan Soto, but this was a move, I think, at the end of the day that Steve Cohen had to make. You had to make that big splash, and Juan Soto wanted to be a New York Met. Obviously, it took a lot of years and a lot of money to get him, but I can't think of, besides the Mike Piazza trade in the middle of the season, this has to be the most important, significant acquisition that the Mets have ever made. I'm sure it's going to be a huge hit at the box office, merchandise, all that stuff. Is it sinking into you that Juan Soto is now a Met?
No, not yet, because I still have to remember that he'll literally be out there in right field in Port St. Lucie in just a couple of days. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, Piazza, what Cespedes did after the trade deadline in 15, I mean, those are things that, they happen, and then the result after is this wow factor. But with Juan Soto, the wow factor is there right away. And I think I hope it's not hyperbole to say that it's a seismic shift in the way that New York baseball, the power dynamic goes with the Mets and the Yankees. Mets have always been the little brother, whether they want to admit it or not. And the Juan Soto signing completely erases that to me. I mean, the Yankees outspend everybody. Well, not anymore. And Steve Cohen figured that out he figured out a lot more that I hope I can, dip into his pockets and figure out how he made $20 billion. But he figured it out with Juan Soto and the things that he had to show Juan. And you talked about, Pete's home run. What did that change? I think the Mets going to the NLCS last year with a team that was supposed to be okay. That really impressed Juan Soto. So it's not just the dollars, but what the Mets had built over the last year and a half that I think pushed Juan over the edge.
I think for a lot of people, it was kind of hard to believe when he would come out and say that, the Mets family atmosphere was an important factor. And I guess when you factor in, the 15-year deal and the multi-millions that he's going to make, it's hard to believe that it was the family atmosphere that brought him to Flushing.
It's funny you say that, but I showed up to that press conference at Citi Field, which was, again, just a momentous day for the Mets organization. And in the front of the dais was the media on one side, and then there were probably 50 or 70 seats, Peter, that just said Soto family. And I thought, wow, this guy's coming from a big family, or he signed this big contract, and everybody wants to be in the Soto family now. But I really do think that was important for him. It's something that you heard Sean Manaea talk about, heard Jesse Winker. It's the treatment once you're there. And when Juan Soto is signing a 15-year deal, maybe that is the thing that pushes him over the edge. Of course, $700+ million will do that, but it's the care, the day-to-day stuff, because this is a long season. You're constantly flying, constantly traveling. We get to Baltimore at 2:00 in the morning. Families are usually flying on a commercial jet to get there the next day. Where are they staying? What kind of tickets are they looking at? And you're talking about rinse, repeat, in and out of cities for 15 years. Are they going to be taken care of? What steps are going to be moving forward? What are they going to put in place? And so this is a testament, I think, to other teams to do some of those little things really, really well, because he signed the Mets signed Juan Soto, but they signed his parents. They'll sign his family. They do that with everybody, the wives, the kids, the daycare, this and that. I'm telling you, it goes a lot further than most people think.
I'm sure you are looking forward to getting down to Port St. Lucie to reunite with Howie Rose and Pat McCarthy and get things going on the Mets Radio Network, led by 880 here in New York. And when's the first broadcast, and how pumped are you to get down there to spring training?
Yeah, I mean, I'm ready to go. You get to the point where you just try to rest up for a little while, and then by the time Christmas goes into New Year's, it's time, and then the Mets sign Pete Alonso, and I hate to tell my wife, it's time. So our first broadcast will be on February 22nd by myself and Howie Rose. It'll good to get him back. It's always hard to pull Howie off the ninth hole to get him into the broadcast booth for spring training, but I think we'll be able to wriggle him out. But it's hard not to be jacked up. And you remember going into the 2023 season, coming off of 22, you get those high expectations. And this is where you want to be as a Met fan. High expectations. Again, knowing full well that when you have high expectations, sometimes, and the Mets know in their history, you don't meet those expectations, but it's where you want to be. And to go into 2025 with this much at stake, it's awesome. And I'm really excited.
Absolutely. A lot of Met fans pumped up. Keith, thank you so much, my friend, for spending some time on the show. Exciting news about Pete Alonso last night, and look forward to seeing you at Citi Field this season.
Absolutely, Peter. Be well. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Keith Rad, Mets broadcaster on 880. Well, it has been an action-packed show. Are we done yet?
No.
No. Did overtime get approved?
It did.
Overtime got approved. So we welcome in Wiz, and it's time to play Stump the Wiz. Vinny Tickets from Ticketbash.com was supposed to check in with us from New Orleans, but I understand things are getting a little crazy down there on Bourbon Street. So if he checks in before we say goodbye, and whenever that might be in the next 10 minutes or so, we'll put him on. Wiz, would you say this might have been one of the greatest sports bashes in show history?
Of course. You had Eric Coleman come on, you had Kenny Albert come on, Keith Rad came on, and the fact that you had the guy running the Jewish Sports Hall of Fame say to Kenny Albert.
The National Jewish Sports Hall of Fame. Not just any Sports Hall of Fame.
The National Jewish Sports Hall of Fame actually say.
I knew you were going to like that.
Listen, you know me. You know Hall of Fames are my bread, butter, plate, everything whatsoever. It is literally my main interest of sports, period.
No question. I saw the smile on your face. You're like a little kid in the candy store today.
Oh, yeah.
So let's play Stump the Wiz.
All right.
Now, last week, you stopped the bleeding.
Yes.
I think it was 3 or 4 weeks in a row that we stumped you.
Yes.
Right. So you finally got an answer right last week.
Correct.
So we'll see if we can do it. Now, we're going to do something a little different today.
Okay.
I'll get to it in a second. Now, it is time to play Stump the Wiz. DM your best sports trivia question to Sports Bash Media social media channels. If we pick your question and you stump the Wiz, you win a prize. Today's prize, as we just had Keith Rad on the show, will be 2 tickets for a mutually agreed upon 2025 New York Mets home game at Citi Field. It will not be opening day. It will not be any game against the Yankees. So it will be 2 tickets to a mutually agreed upon 2025 New York Mets home game. Today's contestant is John Rosenblatt from Belmore. Now, here's how we're going to do it. Ran it by Tony before, and he's in agreement with me.
Okay.
There are 2 questions. You have to answer the first one, and then we'll stop the clock, and you'll get the second question.
Okay.
Okay? So it's 2 questions. separated by a stoppage in play. First time we've ever had an intermission. Now, we may not have an intermission because if you don't get the first question right in 2 minutes, there is no second question.
Okay.
And you would not be able to it's kind of like name that tune. If you still have two, like the last thing that they do, is it bid it? No, not bid it. No. What do they do with the last part of name that tune? Where if you have 2 songs left, you have to guess, and you only have 3 seconds, you're not winning.
Right.
So you would have to make sure that you leave yourself. Tony, I would say he's got to split this. He's got to take no more than a minute for the first part, and then have a minute left for the second part.
Agreed.
Right. Okay. Ready to go? So we're going to have 2 minutes on the clock. Again, first question, I'll say my words that starts the clock, and you'll have 2 minutes to get that part, stop the clock, get to the next one.
Right.
Ready. The first question, name all 4 teams who have not appeared in a single Super Bowl. 4 teams have never appeared in the Super Bowl. We have 2 minutes on the clock for part 1, and away we go.
Detroit Lions, Cleveland Browns, Jacksonville Jaguars, Houston Texans.
Boom! Oh my God! 156 still to go. Holy smoke! Did you read the script?
No, I already know that. I already know that. However, the Lions and the Browns have also been to NFL championships in the past.
Well, I didn't ask you about that part. We asked you about the Super Bowl.
I still want to say it.
Okay, there you go. So what do we officially have left on the clock?
155.
155. So 5 seconds. Wow, this is crazy. Now
You said pace yourself, and I did.
Well, you basically have the whole 2 minutes left, like 155.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now I was nervous. I thought about this. The 2 questions were submitted. I said, which one do we use? I'm like, no, let's use both of them, right? Sure. So here we go. We still have 1 minute and 55 seconds to go. You're well on your way to avoid being stumped. The second question is also Super Bowl related. Name all 5 teams who have won just 1 Super Bowl in their history. We have 1 minute and 55 seconds on the clock. We're looking for the 5 teams who have won just 1 Super Bowl, and away we go.
Okay. New York Jets.
It's 1.
Seattle Seahawks.
2.
Chicago Bears.
Bears.
Philadelphia Eagles, assuming that Sunday doesn't change things.
Correct.
The last one, I'm trying to think.
New
New Orleans Saints.
There you go. We're done. Wiz is the winner with 1. I think you were slow on the trigger finger.
Yes,
I think he had 1:30 left on the clock. So you got both questions combined in 30 seconds. That is probably the most magnificent accomplishment in the 72-year history of Stump the Wiz.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. Tony, you've only been with us since we came here, but I can't remember even on our old show at the airport, Wiz pulling off anything this remarkable.
I'm impressed. Very impressed.
There was one other time I can think of.
Which one other time?
That was when it was regards to who had the most amount of RBIs in a single inning. And I easily mentioned Fernando Tatis,
yes,
St. Louis Cardinals against the Los Angeles
it was
Dodgers.
only one answer to the question.
2
This
grand
was like
slams.
you had to get four answers on the first question and 5 answers on the second question.
This I know by heart.
Oh, unbelievable. Well, we apologize to John Rosenblatt from Belmore. Sorry you did not stump the Wiz. Even if we only used one of your questions, you would have been up the creek, without a paddle, because the Wiz was on fire today.
I'll say.
Let's see if you can continue it with This Week in Sports History.
Well, I'm going to change things up a little bit.
Oh, so you're following in my footsteps here a little bit, changing things up.
Well, even though today is the week, a few days before the Super Bowl, I want to talk about something that I deeply remember back on the same day that I went to an Islanders game on February 6th, because that was when LeBron James shattered Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's record for the amount of points scored in NBA history. It was a game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. It was a game against the Oklahoma
You got
City
me all
Thunder.
choked up.
He had to score 38 points to eclipse that record, and since then, he has now surpassed the legendary Brazilian basketball player Oscar Schmidt for the most amount of points of any kind of organized basketball ever, with over 40,000 to his name.
I think it would have been very hard to outdo stumped the Wiz, but you came pretty close with This Week in Sports History.
Yeah, I'd say so. Oscar Schmidt, got to give that guy some love.
It is now time for the Sports Bash Media poll question of the day. It's presented by Living Legends Memorabilia. We post a new poll question every Tuesday and Thursday on the Sports Bash Media X/Twitter page. Today's question, who is going to win Super Bowl 59? And you have three choices. I know there's not three teams in the Super Bowl. There's two, but you have three choices. The Eagles, the Chiefs. Tony, you want to say the third one?
I don't care.
There you go. The Eagles, the Chiefs, and as Tony Walker said, I don't care. I fall in the category of I don't care. I just want to eat and watch the commercials. Wiz, Eagles, Chiefs, or I don't care?
I don't care. I want to eat and watch the commercials.
Well, you're not eating at my house, but I hope you have food at your house. So
I'm going to make some of the food at my house.
You're gonna you cook?
Yeah, I cook.
Wow.
You didn't know that?
I did not know that.
I make a lot of good food.
Look at you, Chef Boyardee.
No, because that would mean that I would get my stuff from a can, and no, I'm not.
I'm lucky I know how to use a microwave. I really am. You know, I was a failure at Success Rice. No, seriously, my wife was leaving. This is years ago. We had first in our apartment, and she hit some traffic on the way home from work, because at that time she was still working in her office. Now she works from home. So she's on the way home from work and she hits traffic and she calls me up. She says, "You have to start dinner." I'm like, asking me to start dinner? And she says, "Go and take out the Success Rice and put it," and I was a failure at it. I blew it up. I don't know how I did it, how I can be a failure at Success Rice, but I am. But that's good that you know how to cook. You're going to make a lady very happy someday.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm only 1/4 of the way to 100 done, so hopefully sooner rather than later.
There you go. Well, that's something in your toolbox there. The Living Legends item of the week is a Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier signed and framed photo that we're looking at right now. I know you didn't see this the other day, but how about that? How about this beautiful, I think it was 16 by 20. It looks like 16 by 20 on there.
It does look like it. Yeah.
I didn't copy it over from the script.
It looks like a 16 by 20.
Yeah, but it's a beautiful piece, autographed, and give Warren a call. 516, let me make sure I don't give my home phone number again. 516-826-4000. I don't know if you heard this a couple of weeks ago, but I was giving the number for Living Legends. And instead of giving the number for Living Legends, because it starts with the same number, I gave my home phone number. Now, luckily, nobody has called the show, and Tony deleted it from the replay.
Oh, boy.
So I now have to take it very, very slowly when it comes to that.
How did he delete it? Did he 80 yard or something like that with the correct number?
No, he just clipped out that little clip and cut to me laughing about the fact that I did that. Of course, I cannot end the show without a Billy Joel update, as everybody knows that my favorite entertainer, musician is Billy Joel. My family and I just saw him on New Year's Eve at UBS Arena. So we already knew that now that the residency at Madison Square Garden is over, it now frees him up to do other venues in the area, like UBS Arena. So it was announced previously, Friday, August 8th, MetLife Stadium, Billy Joel with Stevie Nicks. I have zero interest in going to that show. I don't like going to MetLife Stadium unless I absolutely have to, because only bad things happen to me at MetLife Stadium, which means Jet losses and the Islanders losing to the Rangers last year in the Stadium Series. And I don't particularly care for Stevie Nicks, so that was out, right? Now, it was announced not long ago that Billy Joel will be playing Yankee Stadium on Friday, July 18th with Rod Stewart. And I'm like, oh, that got my attention.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Right? I could go to see that one. That would be a good one to go to. But now, did you hear this today?
What's that?
Billy Joel on August 21st at Citi Field, the home of the Mets. One night, one stage. Billy Joel with Sting.
Whoa.
Now.
Gordon Sumner himself.
Yes, absolutely. I knew that, by the way. I knew that was his name. But I have to say, I like Sting. And of course, I love Billy Joel. And even though I'm a Yankee fan, and I saw Billy Joel at the old Yankee Stadium years ago, iconic concert that was.
Yeah.
Now, to get to Yankee Stadium, I have to go over a bridge. It's like $3 million to park your car at Yankee Stadium. I like this. I like Billy Joel and Sting at Citi Field, August 21st. I just get in the car with my wife and my kids, and there's no toll. We could even get on the Long Island Railroad and go there. I don't even worry about driving to Citi Field. I think it's going to be very, very possible that on August 21st, now the only caveat to this is that Bradley will be back in college and in training camp for Western Connecticut State. Now, me, Cheryl, and Jared, free to go. The question now is, what day of the week is August 21st? Do we have any idea what day of the week? Tony is looking it up.
Yeah, let me look it up.
But that's going to be great. I don't know when the tickets go on sale for that. I would assume it's
Next week.
Next week. It was next week. So
August 21st is a Thursday.
So we'll have to figure that out. If it's the Thursday night, we go to the concert, he can get his ass back to Connecticut in time for practice the next morning. So it's possible. I'm not ruling it out. We could very well be at Citi Field on August 21st. And let me just also say this. August 21st, the Schwartz family at Citi Field for Billy Joel and Sting would be a great way to celebrate the Long Island Entertainment Football Association team winning the first championship in league history. How about that? We win the championship, and then we celebrate at Citi Field. I think that would be a great way to do it.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Right. So, you know what? Let's see if that works out.
Pre-sale begins on Wednesday, February 10th. February 12th. Wednesday,
12th.
February 12th is the pre-sale, and then the public goes on sale Friday the 14th.
That would be phenomenal.
So that's next week.
I would love to go. Again, I would love it at Yankee Stadium, but I love Citi Field. I like it's an easier commute, even if we get on the train and go. Fantastic. I hope we can figure out a way to work that out. We'll see what happens. I'll have to call in some favors. Coming up Tuesday on Sports Bash will be our next FOP, Friend of Peter. In this case, Friends of Peter. Tuesday, February 11th, Mark and John Cronin from John's Crazy Socks. Can't wait to have them in, see what they bring in for us. They just did a deal with the Pro Bowlers Association to have bowling socks. My son Jared is eagerly awaiting a pair of those. Of course, being that my son Bradley is a football player, maybe there's some football socks. Hopefully there's some socks included there for my wife and I. Maybe we can get them to make Sports Bash socks. Who would be interested in a pair of Sports Bash socks?
Me.
There you go. That would have been your cue to be a little louder.
Me.
There you go. Thank you. Of course, in my case, they'd have to sew 5 pairs of socks together to fit on my size 14 feet. But we'll see if that works out. And we have booked our guest for next Thursday, February 13th. Of course, Wiz will be here for Stump the Wiz. But we will also be joined by Joe Pantorno, another good friend of mine from AM New York. We can talk Mets with him. We can talk Islanders with him. He just had a baby, him and his wife, so not long ago. So we could talk to him about fatherhood, a whole bunch of things we can talk about with Joe next Thursday. And that will do it for this action-packed edition of Sports Bash. Thanks to my guests, Eric Coleman, Kenny Albert, and Mazel Tov again to Kenny for being selected for the National Jewish Sports Hall of Fame. Also thanks to Keith Rad. Vinny Tickets did not join us, but we still thank him for making sure that we are here every week, along with Ryan Anthony as well. Thanks to Tony Walker and everyone here at Governor's Comedy Club. Thanks to Wiz. This Week in Sports History, Stump the Wiz. Sports Bash presented by Ticketbash.com and the Ryan Anthony Head Start Fund. Sports Bash is sponsored by the Embassy Diner in Bethpage, by Living Legends Memorabilia in Rockville Center, by Bearcat Billing Service. I forgot to take that out of the script. The Marty Lyons Foundation, and that is just about it. For our entire crew, this is Peter Schwartz saying thank you for watching. Sports Bash returns on Tuesday at 1 o'clock. Have a great weekend, everybody, and enjoy the Super Bowl, enjoy the food, enjoy the commercials.